Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've been scrolling through the news lately, you've probably felt it, right? This massive, frankly dizzying whiplash in how we talk about human demographics. Today, we're looking at what I call the population pivot, and more importantly, how we actually adapt to a shrinking world.
Think about it. Just a few decades ago, back in the 1970s, the ultimate existential dread was exponential overpopulation. I mean, the panic was real. We were terrified of overcrowding, of running out of resources, totally convinced we were just going to multiply right past the planet's capacity. But today, that script is completely flipped. Across much of the West, and honestly, increasingly all over the globe, birth rates are hitting all-time lows. This sudden demographic drop has completely changed the conversation, and it's leaving a lot of folks deeply worried about what comes next. And look, this isn't just some distant sci-fi forecast for the year 2100. The current data is wild. Over 42% of U.S. counties are already shrinking. 42%. For the people living in those towns, population decline isn't some abstract theory drawn up on a whiteboard. It's a daily, lived reality that is actively changing the very fabric of their communities right now.
And if we pan out globally, we're looking at over 40 different countries currently experiencing shrinking populations. We aren't just talking about Japan's well-known demographic shifts anymore, you know? This tectonic pivot is hitting places from South Korea to Italy, and it's even reaching into parts of Eastern Europe and the Americas. It is a widespread reality all across the globe. So all this brings us to a really critical question for you to consider. Are we actually panicking for the wrong reasons? Well, when you dive into demographer Jennifer Sciubba's work, a super fascinating perspective emerges. We might need to completely separate our demographic fears from the actual data. Our obsession with hitting some imagined correct population size is blinding us to the real work. And that work, it's figuring out how to successfully adapt to these shifts rather than just blindly fighting them.
The timeline of how we got here is just fascinating. During that massive overpopulation panic of the 70s, the total numbers were surging. But beneath the surface, the actual growth rate had already started declining back in the 1960s. We were essentially blinded by what's called population momentum. That's when absolute numbers keep growing because of past high birth rates, even as current fertility drops. We obsessed over the big headline total and completely missed the underlying structural shift happening right under our feet. So the crucial point here is a brilliantly provocative idea from Sciubba. Aiming for a correct population number allows us to be the laziest. Think about it for a second. Expanding for a rapidly growing population is a very familiar, very comfortable playbook. We just build more schools, pave more roads, expand the infrastructure. Chasing endless growth essentially lets society off the hook from having to answer much harder, far more complex structural questions. Because actually adapting to the population we currently have requires some politically brutal choices. It's not a mystery what needs to be done, but it is incredibly risky for our leaders. Just imagine a politician stepping up to the microphone today and saying, "Hey everyone, to balance the books for the future, we need to drastically raise the retirement age," right? That politician probably just put themselves out of a job before they even stepped off the podium. Adapting our systems is vastly harder than lazily wishing for endless growth. And this brilliantly illustrates the structural nightmare we're facing. The inverted demographic pyramid. We are looking at a soaring old age dependency ratio. Basically, a massive growing slice of older dependents relying on a shrinking slice of working age people. The vital questions shift literally overnight. We have to stop asking how do we build more kindergartens and start scrambling to figure out how on earth do we train enough gerontologists and how do we actually fund long-term care. Which puts immense pressure on one very specific systemic flaw, the unpaid care burden. Historically, societies have leaned heavily on women to perform the vast majority of unpaid care, from child-rearing all the way to elder support. But with that soaring old age dependency ratio we just talked about, that ad hoc system simply breaks down. To genuinely adapt to a shrinking world, we absolutely have to formally institutionalize and value care work. It has to shift from an assumed familial duty to a sustainable, financially supported economic pillar.
Let's move to and see how this builds directly into our own careers. Historically, we've treated life in these very linear stages. You learn, you work, you retire. Boom, boom, boom. But in a shrinking society where we live much, much longer, that model is totally obsolete. True adaptation means embracing a multi-stage life built on continuous upskilling. Education can't just be a one-and-done event for the young anymore. It has to be integrated throughout our entire lives to ensure we have economic security over a much longer timeline.
Yet amidst all this anxiety about structural change, we're completely overlooking the triumphs here. Declining fertility doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It actually correlates almost perfectly with massive celebratory improvements in our quality of life. We are looking at unprecedented life expectancies, soaring education rates, and amazing opportunities for women outside the home. The fact that we even have the luxury of navigating this specific demographic challenge is fundamentally a huge marker of profound societal success.
But somehow, we just zoomed right past celebrating those wins and defaulted straight back to panic mode. It really highlights how desperately we need a new vocabulary for success. We are still judging our societal well-being by the outdated metric of endless exponential growth. If our population, and by extension our GDP, isn't infinitely expanding, we have to completely redefine what progress actually looks like in the 21st century.
So what's the actual blueprint for a shrinking society? Surprisingly, the answer is incredibly grassroots. Rather than waiting around for disconnected national policies to magically fix demographic shifts, Sciubba argues we adapt neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street. Building true resilience means disconnecting from the national panic and cultivating hyper-local, tight-knit communities. Think intergenerational living, localized elder care co-ops, and robust neighborhood support networks. That is where sustainable care actually happens.
Which leaves us with the ultimate defining challenge of our era. How do we redefine success and well-being in a society that isn't infinitely growing and lacks an infinitely growing GDP? It's time to stop mourning the loss of arbitrary population numbers and start doing the innovative work of adapting to the incredible, long-living world we've actually built. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this framework shifts how you read the next demographic headline. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.